on April 30th, the Trump Organization, which Donald Trump still owns, unveiled plans to build an 80-story Trump Tower in Dubai. Then on May 1st, Trump's crypto company, World Liberty Financial, secured a $2 billion deal with an Emirati company with deep ties to the government. And only 11 days later, on May 12th, your department notified our committee that it would ignore Ranking Member Meek's holds on UAE arms sales. Secretary Rubio, we have a president who is personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government-backed company at the same time he is selling lethal weapons to that same government. Isn't that a clear conflict of interest?
I think no matter who was president, they would have to deal with the UAE. We have to. They're a member.
That's not my question. We can have a policy debate about how we should engage with the UAE.
You're making claims about corruption, and I'm answering that any president in the United States, I don't care who the president is, would have to deal with UAE.
President Trump is personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government while selling weapons to that same government who is enabling a genocide. Policy aside, are you really saying you don't think this is a conflict of interest?
You're making claims. The president's family owns a business, and they can conduct business anywhere in the world they want.
Chair recognizes Representative Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I want to turn to the war in Sudan. This is, as you know, the world's largest displacement and humanitarian crisis. 500,000 people are facing famine. I saw firsthand the suffering when I visited Sudanese refugees in Chad. Earlier this year, and again yesterday, you reiterated that the Rapid Support Forces, a militia, is committing a genocide in Sudan. Is that correct?
We're very concerned about what both sides are doing, frankly, but the RSF in particular.
Correct. I agree with that. You also said as part of that, that all of our engagement with the UAE, we need to raise the fact that they are openly supporting an entity that is carrying out a genocide. And yet, President Trump continues to arm the UAE. In fact, he just blew through Ranking Member Meek's congressional hold on over $1 billion in arms sales, ignoring this committee's longstanding role as an independent check on major arms sales. And we can have a policy debate here about the merits of continuing to arm the UAE or not, despite this genocide. I had that same conversation with Secretary Blinken. But actually, I want to talk about the events that led up to that decision. So on April 30th, the Trump Organization, which Donald Trump still owns, unveiled plans to build an 80-story Trump Tower in Dubai. Then on May 1st, Trump's crypto company, World Liberty Financial, secured a $2 billion deal with an Emirati company with deep ties to the government. And only 11 days later, on May 12th, your department notified our committee that it would ignore Ranking Member Meek's holds on UAE arms sales. Secretary Rubio, we have a president who is personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government-backed company at the same time he is selling lethal weapons to that same government. Isn't that a clear conflict of interest?
I think no matter who was president, they would have to deal with the UAE. We have to. They're a member.
That's not my question. We can have a policy debate about how we should engage with the UAE.
You're making claims about corruption, and I'm answering that any president in the United States, I don't care who the president is, would have to deal with UAE. They're a member of the Abraham Accords, number one. They've been incredibly cooperative on a bunch of other issues. We don't agree with them on 100%. We have concerns about some of the things they do, but this is called the balancing of foreign policy.
Secretary
it is in
Rubio,
our national interest to have a good relationship with the UAE, despite the fact that there are things we do we don't like.
Secretary Rubio, I don't disagree with you. I just visited the UAE a couple weeks ago and had these very same conversations there, but I don't think this is a complicated question. President Trump is personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government while selling weapons to that same government who is enabling a genocide. Policy aside, are you really saying you don't think this is a conflict of interest?
No, you're making claims. The president's family owns a business, and they can conduct business anywhere in the world they want. The president's never once raised business deals in UAE when talking about it. Any president would have to have a relationship with the UAE.
Secretary Rubio, that's just silly.
The previous administration had one too.
President Trump has retained his ownership of these companies, and I have an image right here from World Liberty Financial's website. So the idea that President Trump is not the face of the brand of this company on top from benefiting from them, and it literally says on the website that Mr. Trump and his family members own a 60% stake in this company, that's silly. So we can talk about the policy merits. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you a very simple question. Do you believe it's a conflict of interest to have a president personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government while selling weapons to that same government who's enabling a genocide?
I don't accept the premise of your question. I think this has nothing to do with personally benefiting from anything. This has to do with the fact that in order to conduct foreign policy in the Middle East, you're going to have to deal with the UAE.
Mr. Secretary, this is a clear conflict of interest, and anyone with any common sense can see that. The president is personally benefiting from billions of dollars of deals, and he doesn't care at all about the people of Sudan who are experiencing famine and genocide. It's shocking to me that you can't admit that. It's clear that you seem more concerned about staying in Trump's good graces than sticking up for human rights and American values that you once were a champion for. With that, I'm going to yield the remainder of my time to Representative Olszewski.
Well, you make these claims about staying in good graces. You accuse people of being
Reclaiming my time,
corrupt.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I appreciate a softball for you, yes or no, since I don't have a lot of time, and I appreciate it. The chairman gives me a few seconds back. Softball for you. Would you, yes or no, as Secretary, find it outrageous for you to solicit or accept a $200,000 Rolls Royce from a foreign government for personal or State Department use?
That offer's never been made to me.
Yes, so you would reject that offer?
The offer of a Rolls Royce?
Yes.
I don't understand the purpose of that question. That's a silly question.
The fact that you can't answer the question,
I
Mr.
just
Secretary,
answered. I said it's silly.
Silly because you would accept it or not?
Of course not. Who would accept it? But
Well,
no one's
then I think you should maybe
What are you equating that to?
perhaps, Mr. Secretary, reclaim my time. I think you are an honorable man by most accounts, but the man that you work for doesn't. And the fact that he is soliciting and accepting a $400 million plane is problematic. And you should know about it. It came up in a Senate hearing. You should read about it, add it to your reading, because it is problematic for foreign policy. It adds to the corruption that my colleague just said. And I hope you speak out against it. Thank you.
Chair now recognizes Representative Huizenga.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Secretary Rubio. Good to see you again. I'm going to try to quickly move through a couple of issues. My district consists of Southwest Michigan, including Battle Creek, where we have a large Burmese diaspora, and they have a lot of friends and family who are still back in Burma, Myanmar, that are dealing with the brutal military junta. And they are literally waging a war of terror and genocide on those folks. I have introduced a bipartisan bill, H.R. 3190, the Brave Burma Act, to target the military junta's revenues, specifically implementing full blocking sanctions on Myanmar oil and gas enterprises, Myanmar Economic Bank, the MEB, and entities operating within the jet fuel sector, which is where they get most of their revenue. And this is the same question I asked Secretary Bessent. Are you willing to work with us in my office to implement this particular?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you pass legislation, it's our job to implement it.
Right. I appreciate that. I want to move on. I had in my subcommittee, I'm the South Central Asia subcommittee, but I'm also dealing with the R family of State Department as we're doing this reauthorization. And a couple of weeks ago, we had a hearing where we had the Truth Czarina, Ms. Jankowicz, participated in. And we know that the CCP has been pouring billions of dollars into propaganda and censorship around the world, and I'm actually introducing a bill, Restoring American Freedom Act, that would codify the Trump EO on censorship. But I want to know, what is your strategy to push back on China, defend literally speech and the truth?
Well, I think the first thing is that we need to be strong defenders of free speech everywhere in the world, and anywhere in the world where it's being threatened, including, sadly, parts of Europe, where we're seeing truth and we're seeing free speech now being endangered. The second point I would make about it is, and we've done this in our own department, you know, we had an entity in our own department, the Global Engagement Center, that was involved, frankly, in identifying Americans. Then they would pass this information on to these NGOs that were not part of government, and they would use them then target Americans to try to silence them or brand them or harass them. The State Department should not be engaged in that, and we closed that center.